life partners tracked down. But as a mentor, and it's a good sign because Jess is the only one at this point that can give Will to make a decision to give up management. Surprised to hear that. And the last thing he said, Will doesn't want to give it up because of her woman. And it's the person who was in Atlanta, who's now back. Norman said she's moved back here. We're ready. Remember. Are we ready?
Almost. We're good. Thank you.
Good morning. The Commission of Chicago Landmarks Program Committee is now called to order. My name is the Reverend Dr. Richard Tolliver. I am a member of the commission and serve as chair of the program committee. I will be presiding over the meeting today. My fellow commissioner, Ms. Sue Ellen Burns, also serves on the program committee. Commissioner Burns, would you please introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sue Ellen Burns.
The program committee is a standing committee of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks. Its main purposes are to hear about Chicago nominations for the National Register of Historic Places and public suggestions for new Chicago landmark designations. The committee will first review 2 nominations for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. After this, we will review 10 suggestions submitted for Chicago landmark designation. I'd like to give some background about the Commission's review of National Register nominations. The National Register is a federal program that recognizes historically and architecturally significant properties. Commission gets a chance to review and comment on National Register nominations for Chicago properties because Chicago is a certified local government under the National Historic Preservation Act. The program committee will make a recommendation to the full commission on Chicago landmark, and any commission vote recommending the nomination will be forwarded to the Illinois National Register Advisory Council. Today, we will be considering 2 National Register nominations. I will call the name of the person making the presentation. After they are done, I will ask any members of the general public who would like to speak. If any representatives for the property are present, please use this opportunity to say a few words should you desire. The first National Register nomination is for Leon Merchants Association building at 2216 South Wentworth Avenue. The nomination was prepared by Lara Ramsey and John Kramer of Ramsey Historic Consultants. John Kramer, are you present?
Here.
Okay, you're here. Would you make your presentation?
Yes, thank you. Commissioners. Ready. Thank you. My name is John Kramer. I'm from Ramsey Historic Consultants in Chicago. Today I'm presenting the nomination for the Leon Merchant Association's building here in Chicago. Today home to the Quetox Center. Next slide. The Onyang building is located at 2216, next. The Onyang building is located at 2216 South Wentworth Avenue in Chicago's Arbor Square community. And since the 19 teens, Wentworth Avenue has been the major thoroughfare through Chicago's Chinatown community. Next slide. Great. Next. All right. So before jumping into the building's significance, just a brief timeline of the building's history. So the building was completed in 1928 as the headquarters for the Onyang, which is a business association, or TOM, for the Chinese community. The building was known as Chinatown City Hall and was a center of business, social, and religious life for Chinese Chicagoans. The Onyang was a dominant business and social organization until about 1970. The Onyang leadership in Chicago had some legal troubles in the 1980s. The federal government took over the building in the late 80s. And then in 1993, the building was locally landmarked by the city of Chicago. And then also in 1993, the Chinese Christian Union Church bought the building. And in 1995, the Huitak Center moved in. They're a nonprofit organization that focuses on community services. And we've got David Wu here today, who's executive director of the Huitak Center. The Onyang is nominated under two criteria. For criterion A, local significance for ethnic heritage and social history for its association with the Onyang. And the next slide. Also, the building is nationally significant under criterion C as a good example of Chinese eclectic design. Next slide. So you can sort of cycle through these. So Chinatown historically was located downtown at Clark and Van Buren. The Chinese, mostly from southern China, Cantonese-speaking Chinese, moved to Chicago starting in the 1870s. And here's a view of a business in downtown Chicago's Chinatown. However, in 1912, because of changes that were happening downtown, a lot of construction, a lot of racial discrimination that was happening downtown, basically the Onyang Association moved all of their member businesses en masse to the intersection of 22nd and Wentworth and established what's called the second Chinatown, and that's the Chinatown that we know today. So you can keep rolling to a little there. Yeah. So the Onyang Association, again, was a tong, a businessmen's association. There were many tongs in the city of Chicago, but the Onyang was the dominant tong in town. It was founded in 1907 the Onyang was founded in New York in 1899, but the Chicago branch was founded in 1907 by the Moy family, originally from southern China. And the tong provided social services, resolved local business disputes and personal disputes, and in effect, they governed life in Chinatown. Next slide. So originally the Onyang were in a set of small offices in Chinatown, but then in the 1920s, they began planning for this large building. They wanted a large headquarters on Wentworth Avenue. They connected with architects Christian Michelson and Sigurd Ronstadt, who were Norwegian American architects, to design this new headquarters. Michelson and Ronstadt had designed a restaurant for a member of the Moy family that was a success. So the Onyang went with this same architect. Next slide. Michelson and Ronstadt were well known in the 1920s for their work in a variety of architectural styles. So we know these West Side sites in the West Athletic Club, the Garfield Park Conservatory, the Austin Town Hall. So they were good at all kinds of different types of architectural design. So what they designed for the Onyang was essentially a union hall, a fraternal hall, onto which they essentially pasted a variety of Chinese architectural motifs. The building was completed in 1928 at a cost of $1 million. And the Chicago Tribune called it one of the most expensive and elaborate buildings ever erected in America by the Chinese. And it was the first Chinese-inspired building in Chicago's Chinatown. Taking a quick tour of the historic building, the ground floor had retail. And then upstairs, there's a view of the center corridor, which connected to classrooms. The Onyang offered both English and Chinese language classes. So we'll see a view of this space today shortly. And here's a view of the kids who were learning Chinese at the Onyang in the early 20th century. And then there's another view of a classroom. And then on the third floor upstairs, there was a large assembly hall, which was used for events, but also there was this unofficial courtroom. The Onyang, as I said, oversaw both personal and business affairs in Chinatown. So you could come to the Onyang and resolve your disputes with this sort of unofficial court. Next slide. Yeah, you can see on the left, the third floor had this courtroom, and also there was a shrine upstairs. Though most of the Onyang members were actually Christian, they did have shrines to traditional Chinese deities and also memorials for family members who passed away. Next slide. As I said, the Onyang headquarters is important nationally for its Chinese eclectic architecture, which, as I said, Western architects in America who were designing traditional Western buildings, but were sort of applying these fanciful Chinese motifs onto their buildings. Here are two of the earliest in the United States on the West Coast. These two buildings in San Francisco that were built right after the 1906 earthquake. But slowly this style moved east as the Chinese moved east. And the Onyang headquarters in Chicago is one of the best examples, definitely in the Midwest, if not the country. Next slide. And then two additional Chinese eclectic style properties on Wentworth Avenue in Chicago's Chinatown are these two buildings that were both also designed by Michelson and Ronstadt. Once the Onyang headquarters was completed in 1928, a few other business owners got on board and were designing their own buildings in this style. Next slide. Yeah, a great view of the no, that's okay. Great view of the Onyang. So after the Onyang remained dominant in Chicago's Chinatown until about 1970. At that point, changes in the neighborhood, changes among the Chinese community here in Chicago really reduced the power that the Onyang had in Chinatown. And by 1970, the building was essentially closed to the public, whereas before it had been, public, Chinatown for Chinatown's City Hall had actually been a tourist attraction by 1970. That was over. As I said, in the 1980s, there were some legal troubles that the Onyang in Chicago had. And in the 1990s, the Chinese Christian Union Church bought the property, and then the Hui-Tai Center moved in 1993. And I understand this is the 30th anniversary of the Hui-Tai Center. So here's a view of David and his team celebrating the Hui-Tai Center. So now for just a quick tour through the building today. So we can see the building just behind the Chinatown gate. This is from the 1970s, the gate, and we can just scroll through slowly. A view of the building facing east onto Wentworth Avenue. And then a few views showing the pagodas, the very exuberant terracotta work that's typical of Chinese eclectic style. And then going inside the building, so you'll see the main entrance is at the bottom, facing east onto Wentworth Avenue. So if you keep scrolling. So this is the main entrance, and then going through that entrance, there's a stairwell right up to the second floor. And then coming up the stairs, here's the second floor with the main corridor, and then the large classrooms and offices that surround that corridor. And then this is the corridor that we saw the historic image of. So you can see the building is totally intact. The Hui-Tai Center has been a great steward of the building and protected all of the original 1920s features. There's a classroom. And then some stairs that go up to the third floor. And here's the big assembly hall that today is used for events and also for worship. And that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Burns, do you have any questions?
No questions, just a comment. In a city of spectacular architecture, this building is really extraordinary. So I'm excited to see it here. And I think the stewardship of this property speaks similarly to the fact that it's still in such great shape. So really excited to see this come forward.
Are there any members of the public who would like to speak?
Of course,
Mr. Ward?
yes. Oh, actually, behind you first, Commissioner.
Yeah, I'm David Wu, I'm the executive director of the Appointment Center. The Chinese Christian Union Church, the building's owner, as well as the Appointment Center, community center, this house there are supportive of this nomination. We've tried to be good stewards of this building for the past 30 years. Since the commission has designated this as a Chicago landmark. And in nominating this building for the National Register, we hope that the building will be listed as a building of national significance, not just local or statewide significance. 2 years ago, the National Trust for Historic Preservation started America's Chinatown Initiative in recognition that there are 83 Chinatowns in the United States, and almost all of them are in decline. In Chicago, we say that the only thriving and growing Chinatown, and that's true. And this building is one of the most beautiful examples of a building in Chinatown. And Chinatown's attempt to mark their place in the urban environment. It's not just a Chicago story, but it's a story nationally of how Chinese immigrants came and struggled to find a place in this country. I did a quick count of National Register sites related to Asian and Pacific Islander Americans, and I could count 75. I don't know if I go through 100,000, but almost all of them are either in California or the Pacific Islands. There are only 3 actually east of the Mississippi. Boston Quincy Elementary School, the New York Chinatown Little Italy district, and the Stedman Thomas Historic District in Arkansas. I had to look at that one up. Filipinos, Japanese, Chinese were hired by the fishing industry in Arkansas. So anyways, I could talk a long time about the building, but during Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, this commission has an opportunity to rectify this oversight. My state historic preservation office, their building listed on the National Register.
Thank you. Mr. Ward?
Yes, Ward Miller, Richard H. Treehouse, Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. We very much support this nomination to the National Register. It's a very important building. It was the heart of Chinatown. Those pagoda sort of like structures really do signal to people far away from the expressways, from all the local streets, that this is the gateway to Chinatown. Even before there was an official gateway added in the 1970s. We at Preservation Chicago recommended the gateway and some of the buildings along Wentworth and Cermak to be considered for Chicago landmark designation in the future. So we'd love to see that as well. And we saw some examples of some of the great buildings that are not protected along Wentworth. So we're very much in support of this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Yes.
I'd like to comment as well.
You identify
Excuse me.
yourself.
My name is Kendra Parson. I am the advocacy manager for Landmarks Illinois. And we are also very in support of this nomination. After the Chinese community was displaced from the South Loop and moved to this area around 1912, the Almyang Merchants Association became a hub of cultural activity and services for the new Chinatown. And I think it's very special, not only that this building continues to stand, but that it continues to be a hub of community services and activity and events. And it's very distinctive and beautiful architecture. It communicates a story of community pride and resilience that deserves to be recognized by listing in the National Register. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? If not, I will call for a vote on whether to recommend listing the Onlyon Merchants Association building at 2216 South Wentworth Avenue on the National Register to the full commission.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye, it passes. Thank you. The second National Register nomination is for the Charles and Emma Brock House at 1436 West Foster Avenue. I call on Jean Sylvester for the presentation.
Morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here at this committee meeting. I work with Benjamin Historic Certifications and represent the owners of 1436 West Foster Avenue. I'm very pleased to introduce you to this building and present why we believe it merits listing on the National Register. In contrast to the grand and opulent Onlyon building, this house is a very quiet, simple building, but its location is, we believe, significant because it demonstrates a transitory period in architecture in Chicago and in the Edgewater community. This house is located at 1436 West Foster between Clark Street on the west and Glenwood Avenue on the east. It is located in the Edgewater community area in Ward 48. The period of significance is 1894 when the permit was issued for its construction. The original address was 958 Foster Avenue. No architect or builder were found. This is the 1905 Sanborn Assurance Map, which shows zeroed in that there was nothing really built around it when it was constructed up until 1905. It does not appear on later maps, but it also shows the integrity of the building. The footprint is exactly the same with the exception of the first story porch in the rear being enclosed. Charles Brodt was born in Germany in 1847. Emma Mueller-Brodt was born in Illinois in 1857 to German parents. Charles was listed as working as a barber in the Loop, but based on the interior of the building, you'll see we believe that he may have owned at least one or more barber shops because he was quite successful. Edgewater, when this was built, had only been part of Chicago for 6 years before it was the Lakeview Township, a separate community that was very sparsely settled. It was later settled by immigrants from Germany, like the Brodts, Ireland and Luxembourg. Swedes settled the area in Andersonville to the immediate west. And sometimes this area is called East Andersonville. So we believe that the Brodt House warrants listing on the National Register under criterion C for architecture. It embodies distinctive characteristics of a type and period, possesses excellent craftsmanship and integrity, but we believe it is significant as it is an unusual blending of architectural styles because of their time period. Combines Queen Anne Victorian era styles, the shingle styles, and the four-square architectural type. And the transitory time period is when Queen Anne was very popular at the time, but four squares were just starting to come into vogue. Also has an excellent degree of integrity. Thank you. So Queen Anne was popular from 1880 to 1910, and characteristics of the style include picturesque outlines, rich surface treatments, where the dominant feature is texture, differing wall textures, geometric shapes, asymmetrical entrances, and broad sweeping porches with columns supporting the roofs. In the interior, they're very elaborate with turned spindles, brackets, trim, art glass, and typically a large entrance hall that leads to public spaces. So there it is. Even though it appears to be simple and presents a very simple and square presence on the street, when you look at it closely, there's a lot more detail there than initially meets the eye. What we find particularly interesting is the clapboarding on the first floor was milled to have rounded corners, which is not very usual. The shingles are only on the second floor. And the shingles are wrap around the house. There are no corner boards. Also, the balustrade on the front porch is something we've never seen before. It's woven almost like a basket weave. And, you know, back to the integrity, which I'm gonna just keep pounding on. We believe that part of the significance of this building is that nothing has been altered on the exterior and very, very little has been altered on the interior by all of its owners. Here's the porch with the asymmetrical entrance. When you walk up those stairs onto that porch and into that front entrance, it is like you were going back in time. So it is also has elements of the shingle style, which was a term coined by Vincent Scully in 1955. Typically, it's found on the East Coast. But Queen Anne style, it's essentially a Queen Anne style building, simplified and wrapped with shingle or clapboarding wall surfaces. And again, many have no interruptions at corners, and often shingles are only found on the second story, like the Broad House. Here you get a view of sort of looking toward the northwest, where you see the differing angles, polygonal bays, polygonal dormer up at the top, and then those fabulous stop fluted columns with that great balustrade. And also you can get a little view of the rear. Very hard to get pictures of the side of this house because the buildings are close together, but you can see there are additional polygonal bays on the sides and in the rear. So this also, and this was categorized, this is an orange rated building, and in the survey, it was categorized as a Queen Anne, but there are also very strong elements of Foursquare here, which was just starting to become popular a little bit after this building was constructed. So this building was very early for a Foursquare. It's typically a very simple square, presents a square presence on the street. Detailing is much more modest than the crazy Queen Anne. And it also can incorporate different stylistic detailing on other houses, including arts, crafts, prairie, even colonial revival. Typically, first story porches extend across the fronts of the houses, and they are hip roofs with dormers, both found at the Broad House. Again, just love this picture. Go ahead. So the interior of the house is pure Queen Anne. This is a view of the entrance hall looking west. There is a polygonal study on the left, the stairway up to the second floor, and a bench for seating. There's a built-in hall tree at the end of that hall, and this spandrel fretwork is throughout the entire first floor. It is absolutely remarkable to see in person. There are original light fixtures throughout the house, with the exception of a few in the kitchen, which were updated, and the bathrooms upstairs. It's a close-up of the spindles. I mean, the condition is absolutely incredible. This is a view from the entrance hall toward the parlors on the right and on the left. It once was two parlors, but now they have turned one into a living room and the other one into sort of like a sitting area. The view up the stairs. This is the hall tree. There are built-in cabinets like this hall tree throughout the house. This is the art glass, another feature of Queen Anne, looking west, and then you'll see the polygonal study on the left. This is the living room. A little bit more modest. The entrance hall was really what was built to impress visitors, but this is also very characteristic. Fireplaces are original, and all the surrounds are original. This is another view of it's a very complex fretwork supported by these columns throughout the front hall. It is absolutely spectacular. Another view of the study. They're built-ins in the study, all original, all perfectly intact. This is the front door. This is another built-in in the dining room. Close-up of the art glass in the front door. This is the dining room, similar, so same surround on the fireplace and same hearth, but a very different mantle. All the doors are original. Like I said, most of the light fixtures on the first floor are original. This is the second floor. This is the primary bedroom. So upstairs, everything, again, with the exception of a couple of the light fixtures and some changes in what would have been servants' bedrooms in the rear. Everything is intact. And I just included this because I've never really seen a bathtub like this that is still intact. The medicine cabinet is original. I mean, it's really unbelievable. And this is the third floor, never been touched. The art glass, the leaded glass throughout is all original. So, so we believe that this quiet little building, it is the only frame house on this stretch of Foster. There are many Queen Anne's and Princess Anne's, which are simplified Queen Anne's, in Edgewater. There are many Foursquares in Edgewater, but we did a drive around. There are no buildings that are as uniquely a combination or a blend of those two styles and types of architecture, and none have the integrity that this has. There are some very wonderful high style Foursquares and Queen Anne's, but they've all been altered or they all have siding, and this has had absolutely nothing. So we believe that it should be listed on the National Register as an unusual blending of architectural styles and reflective of the transitory time, not just in architecture, but of the history of the community as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Burns, do you have any comments or questions?
I don't, thank you.
Is there anyone from the public who has a comment they'd like to,
Well,
Mr. Okay,
Michelle Fire, I have to say, I've lived in the neighborhood for 40 years. I'm amazed that this is still intact. It's a miracle. It's a miracle.
It is. It is. And we believe that that sort of adds to the significance that none of the owners have changed it.
That is beyond belief,
It is.
actually.
And these pictures are very well lit because they were professionally taken with the original light fixtures. It's much darker inside. So I wasn't, I
Don't
really
say
couldn't,
that.
I couldn't show you pictures from upstairs because we took the pictures upstairs and they aren't nearly as professional. But it is literally like walking into a time warp. And in such an interesting period of Edgewater's history when immigrants were moving in and it was being developed and many cultural things were going on in the neighborhood, and the Edgewater Historical Society is very supportive of this listing, as are the owners who are from Nashville, moving to Chicago, appreciative of the history and the architectural significance of this building.
Mr. Ward?
Yes, Ward Miller for the record, Treehouse Executive Director, Preservation Chicago. We very much support this nomination. I think that this is also potentially a Chicago landmark in waiting, as it's orange rated. It does really emphasize Silsby's work, and of course Frank Lloyd Wright worked for Silsby, was greatly influenced by Silsby and his office. And this is an amazing house of the period, and I think we should be looking at not only a landmark district up here in Edgewater and in some of its adjacent neighborhoods, but we should be looking at this individual house as a designated Chicago landmark. Thank you.
Thank you. There any other members of the public who would like to comment? If not, I would like to call for a vote on whether to recommend listing the Charles and Emma Brock House at 1436 West Foster Avenue on the National Register to the full commission.
So moved?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The committee's recommendations for these nominations will be considered by the full commission at its regular monthly meeting on June 5th. The commission meeting will be held in person here at City Hall and is currently scheduled to take place in the City Hall Council Chambers on the second floor. It will begin at 12:45 p.m. Details will be posted on the chicago.gov/CCL. The commission's recommendation will afterwards be sent to the Illinois National Register Advisory Council, which reviews National Register nominations for the entire state. The program committee will now hear suggestions received by staff for new landmark designations since January 2025. I will announce each suggestion and call on the person who submitted it to identify themselves and the organization they represent, if any, and then make a brief statement regarding the suggestion. Please be aware that no decisions concerning Chicago landmark designations will be made at today's meeting. The first suggested nomination is St. Paul CME Church located at 4644 South Dearborn Avenue. The suggester is the Reverend Dr. Curly L. Adams.
Commissioner's House is gonna make a suggestion if we can do it like this and have everybody come up, or if they would prefer, we could have them sit, so whichever we all.
They come there, then we can all center on them, so. And then that gives us more control.
Yeah, that's, good morning, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. My name is Reverend Dr. Curly Adams. I'm the senior pastor of St. Paul CME Church located at 4644 South Dearborn Street in the 3rd Ward of the city of Chicago. Our church is 118 years old. We represent the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church denomination, which will be 155 years old. We are the mother church of the CME denomination in Chicago. Many other CME churches in the Chicagoland area was birthed out of St. Paul. And so we are excited to be here today as we talk about the historical significance of this church. Again, 118 years of unshakable faith. We are a historic institution in the Bronzeville neighborhood and stands as a beacon of faith, community, and civic engagement for over a century. This slide introduces much of our rich history and the significance and the impact that we have made in the Chicagoland area, particularly in the Bronzeville neighborhood. Okay. This shares our mission in terms of what we do. I am the 22nd pastor at St. Paul. They have had a number of pastors to serve this congregation. Three of the pastors, one pastor and 2 assistant pastors, have been elected bishops in our denomination. And so we have truly a rich history. Thanks. Okay. Of course, we entered this building in 1907. We started off sharing it with the United Evangelical Society. And then in 1910, we were able to purchase the church. And since that time, we have, of course, occupied the facility. Okay. And so again, as I stated before, the rise of the mother church, significant role within our CME denomination. We have hosted our annual conferences there. We have an educational building affixed to the church, which houses 10 classrooms currently. Again, the Great Migration, talking about that in terms of families coming in. Many of our members came from, as you know, there was a number of housing projects that went along State Street in that area. And a number of our members were part of the congregation from the housing projects. And so we did a lot of ministry to those in the housing projects in terms of food pantries and enough clothing ministry, education. We provided scholarships and things of that nature. And some of our members who came out of the projects, some of them are serving as pastors in our denomination as a result. Okay, this is the inside of the sanctuary. Currently, we can house about 2,000 within the sanctuary, as you can see. Go ahead. Gospel Music Legacy came out of St. Paul. And also, we've had a number of civic leaders to be part of our congregation. One was Benny Stewart, who was a state rep and former alderman. Then also currently Judge Bertina Lampkin, who serves as an appellate court judge here. We were engaged, of course, in civil rights and civic power, continuing to be an active voice within the civil rights era. And our church was significant in terms of holding meetings and registration drives with the NAACP. Picture of myself and some of our members. That's Judge Bertina Lampkin on the far right there. And then, of course, some of our young people. Yeah. Right. Some of the things that we do within the neighborhood, clothing pantry, bread giveaway, Thanksgiving baskets, toy drives, and we have a AA group that meets weekly at our church. And of course, I've shared with you, we have partnered with Cambridge Classical Academy, a Christian school that is housed in our educational building. And again, just some of the events that we do. If you know that we're right across the street from the old Coleman Elementary School, which now is an administrative office for the Chicago Public Schools. And then also we're across the street from Beethoven Elementary School, which we have partnered with every year to provide clothing and things of that nature. They have a large amount of student population that are challenged, and we have partnered with them to help those students. And so we have done a number of things in terms of stewardship, roof and boiler repairs, ADA accessible updates. We've preserved our stained glass windows and masonry, and we're still working to do some other things. But we just believe that that our church is deserving of landmark status, if that is such the will of this body to consider us for being a beacon of hope, and of course, having been a significant part of the Bronzeville neighborhood for soon to be 118 years in the Bronzeville neighborhood.
Thank you. Suggestion number 2 is Erastus Barnard House 1, located at 1602 West 108th Place, and the suggester is Tim Blackburn.
Hello, Commissioners. Hello, everyone. Tim Blackburn. I'm with Ridge Historical Society, as well as the Eugene S. Pike Foundation, one of Landmarks Illinois' 2022 Most Endangered. I come to you for the Erastus A. Barnard House 1 at 1602 West 108th Place, built for about 1865 for Erastus and Mary Lavinia Barnard. Their families had come west to homestead and farm. The Wilcox family arrived in 1844 and Barnard family in 1846. Erastus and Mary wed in 1862 and lived in a one-bedroom cabin on his 80 acres of land at the foot of the hill on the east side of the very sparsely populated Blue Island Ridge. After Erastus returned from a brief deployment in the Civil War, including taking part in Sherman's March to the Sea, the family built their first home pictured here. It was originally located in a grove of trees surrounded by a slough at what some might consider the heart of Beverly Hills, 103rd and Longwood, and built 2 decades before Beverly's iconic Robert C. Gibbons Castle was constructed kitty corner to it. The house was modernized and moved nearly a mile away in 1924 to its current location in Morgan Park, and then it was basically forgotten. The Barnard family and their descendants recorded and preserved as much of their own history and the community's history as possible. Large collections of their manuscripts, reminiscences, letters, papers, and photos spanning from pre-Civil War through to recent times are held at the Newberry Library and the Ridge Historical Society. Despite the family preserving as much local history as they did, local historians believed their first house was long gone. Research completed earlier this year confirmed this was their first house. Why is this family and house historically significant? The reasons are numerous. They were among the earliest settlers to this once remote area, nearly 12 miles from downtown. The 2-acre Amy L. Barnard Park, just 2 blocks south of the original site, was donated by Erastus to the city after the family's only child died at the age of 20. Barnard and Wilcox families sacrificed much for the Civil War, including losing 2 of their own children. A Barnard sister was one of the very first female principals in Chicago, credited with creating the first ungraded classroom in Chicago for children with special needs, and she defended the rights of Black children to attend school. A nearby CPS school bears her name, Alice L. Barnard Elementary. This was a principal family that made a big impact. They were involved in local government and development, helped form early churches, and kept history alive. However, perhaps their most important impact was done quietly. In Mary Lavinia Barnard's reminiscences, she wrote, "The 60s was the decade of the Civil War. A few times my husband would find a fugitive slave lying in the hay of the manger, where he could feel the warm breath of the cattle. We don't know if other farmers had similar experiences because we never told. You didn't know which side they were on." These instances of helping freedom seekers happened just a few years before they built this house while they lived in their one-room cabin. The family's story is part of a permanent exhibit on the Underground Railroad at Ridge Historical Society. Erastus and Mary were not part of the Underground Railroad, but they did what they could to help their fellow man escape human bondage. Next slide. The exterior appears to be minimally altered in the past 100 years and proudly displays a charming mix of 1920s modernizations with some original Italianate details. The house has no historic landmark designations. The lot touches but is outside the National Register's Ridge Historic District. It is not on the Chicago Historic Resources Survey. Unfortunately, the house has not been occupied and maintained recently, and it's currently in a state with multiple out-of-state heirs. As you can see, the roof is in very poor shape. The owners have boarded it up and just replaced some boarding in the last week, but it has a very perilous future right now at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is German Maple, located at 4668 North Lincoln Avenue. And there were 3 suggestors, Kevin Grady, Monica Barst, and Phyllis Engelman. Would one of those suggestors speak for this?
Commissioners actually was not able, they did submit it, but they did not respond to our voicemails or our emails. But it is here. It was built, they believe, in 1999, and they believe it is owned by the nearby Dock House.
Thank you. The next item is Big Chicks / Tweet Restaurant, 5022 North Sheraton, Chicago Art Deco Society, Joseph Lowndy, president.
Actually, my name is Keith Bringy. I'm here on behalf of the Chicago Art Deco Society, and actually the Society of Architectural Historians, Chicago chapter, Judy Freeman is with us. The business owner, Michelle Fire, and her son are here. Amy Keller is here on behalf of the Chicago Art Deco Society as well. I served as the director of the Chicago Art Deco survey that was funded by the Richard H. Driehaus Foundation. It led to this book, Art Deco Chicago. The editorial board of this book is comprised of 50 leading historians, scholars. The survey included 850 building sites and monuments, 236 manufacturers, 127 artists, sculptors and painters, and it was all boiled down to 100 examples for this book, that massive group. And Big Chicks and Tweet, this building is in the book. So The building was designed by Charles Andre Christen and built in 1937. Christen was born in Austria in Vienna. The building shows this incredible relationship between the Century of Progress World's Fair, 1933, 1934. Joseph Urban, who was also an Austrian immigrant to the United States and a very famous scenic designer, design theorist, was commissioned by the Century of Progress Board to come up with a basic themes. And his theme was color. I don't know, do we have the Joseph Urban? I can hold it up, actually. You should be able to see it. So Christen and Urban have this common, this was Joseph Urban's color theory for the Century of Progress. The fair was this explosion of colors, which was led by consumer desire. You know, if you think about Fiesta wear that's coming out at the same time. So we have this expression of this relationship in the design with the Century of Progress. In addition, we're suggesting that the city look at the businesses which have been there for 4 decades, Big Chicks and Tweet. Over 4 decades, the businesses have been recognized as stalwart community supporters in the LGBTQ and plus community and have advocated for other marginalized groups. Big Chicks has provided a safe space for organizing sponsored events and fundraising for nonprofits, serving diverse populations, including HIV/AIDS patients, family violence programs, and much more. And by continuously, since its beginning, collecting, maintaining, and displaying an important collection of Chicago and international art, Big Chicks is really a significant presenting institution that has garnered local, national, international accolades, including 2016 induction into the Chicago LGBTQ plus Hall of Fame. I think that this would be, from what we know, only the 2nd site associated with the gay community in Chicago, the other being the Gerber Hart Library. Michelle, I wanted to read a little bit of Michelle Bames, the pioneering journalist, Michelle Bame, who was a co-founder of Windy City Magazine. Big Chicks Bar has been one of the most vital parts of Chicago's LGBTQ plus community since its founding 4 decades ago. Owner Michelle Fire and her team have created a beautiful space for all people of all backgrounds to feel welcome and part of the vibrant Chicago community. They've also been strong stewards of the buildings they occupy in their neighborhood. I strongly recommend 5022 North Sheridan Road for Chicago landmark designation, based not just on the artistic and historic nature of the building, but also based on Big Chicks and Tweet as historic and influential businesses and community pioneers. I say businesses here, but in the LGBTQ plus community, bars and restaurants have always been far more than a business. They are our community centers, our places of grieving loss, licking our wounds, picking ourselves up for the next battle, creating our families of choice, and hosting benefits to uplift our nonprofits and our people. And I should also say that Big Chicks has hosted dozens and dozens, almost uncountable memorials in the space for people who passed away. We've, Chicago Art Deco Society and the Society of Architectural Historians sent out an email regarding this, and it's now raised to an international level. Paris Art Deco Society immediately sent a letter of support. We're tracking about 150 contacts with the Alderwoman's office via email, telephone, and so on. Also, Blair Kamen praises Michelle in an article from 2009. Michelle Fire has been the guardian of this little gem designed in 1937 by architect Charles Christen. Its asymmetrical facade, clearly influenced by the 1933-1934 Century of Progress Exposition in Chicago, features dazzling decoration with yellow vertical piers on a backdrop of cobalt blue, as well as splashes of aqua. Michelle Fire stripped off signs and ironwork that obscured the building's ornament. Michelle has invested probably $500,000 in conservation and preservation of this building over the years. Let me see. Is that it? I think that might be it.
Thank you. The next item is Bar House, 6065 North Forest Glen, Tom Barr.
And commissioners, I spoke with Mr. Barr directly just a couple days ago. He is not able to be here, but this is his own home. He wants to explore its history more, through this program committee. So we will look into this more for him.
Thank you. The next item is Paradise Temple Church of God, 11445 South Forest, Janice Helge,
Helgi.
Helge,
Yes.
okay.
Excuse me. First off, I'd like to say that I found out about the opportunity of submitting the suggestion 2 days before the deadline. So I didn't have time to do a tremendous amount of research. I did receive additional research information from Ward Miller at Preservation Chicago. Let me start with my information. I've been researching Roseland and Pullman history for about 40 years. And when I started, I found out that the house that my great-great-great-grandfather had built had burned to the ground. The school that I attended as a third generation unfortunately has been torn down, which is VV Van Vlissingen. That's been torn down. My great-great-grandfather, also an immigrant, had a restaurant at 110th and Michigan Avenue. That building is gone. The KP Hall had his name on the front because he was very instrumental in working with getting a sewer to the Roseland community and also a high school, which Roseland didn't have for a very long time. His name was on the front of the building. The building has been torn down. So KP Hall is gone at 110th in Michigan. The State Theater is gone, the Parkway Theater. Anyhow, my family's history is a bunch of empty lots. So when I found out that I could submit something that would possibly become landmark to save the building, I chose the former synagogue in Roseland because that was so unusual to have a synagogue on the south side. I've since found out the congregation began meeting about 1900 in a hall that was above a coal yard at 160th and Michigan Avenue. And then they met in the old Methodist church building on Michigan Avenue. The cornerstone was laid in 1928. The building was built in 1929. And they were very active in the Roseland community. The Cub Scout group and other organizations, they sponsored within the building. The synagogue building was designed by architect H.L. Morse, M-O-R-S-E. And in 1991, Bishop John Lang was appointed to Paradise Temple Church of God by the esteemed Bishop Lewis Henry Ford. So there is a connection there too. I tried to reach out to Bishop Lang and to Joe Clancy, who's a member of the church, because they were in support of getting a landmark designation on this. But I haven't received a response. As I said, the time was very short. This is a cautionary tale. We don't have a lot of really significant buildings left in the Roseland community. And with Roseland on the uprise and Pullman on the uprise, it would be wonderful to save these buildings by landmarking them while we can. And you can see from the top picture, we have some boarding up going on. We don't know if that building is occupied at this time.
Thank you. Next item is the former Chicago Daily News Building located at 400 West Madison. And the suggester is Preservation Chicago. Ward Miller will make the presentation.
Yes, thank you, commissioners. I'm Ward Miller. I'm the Richard H. Treehouse Executive Director of the nonprofit organization Preservation Chicago. I do believe we have some pictures. This is the former Chicago Daily News building on the south branch of the Chicago River. It was by Halliburton Route from 1928. It also goes by the address of 2 North Riverside Plaza. It's an amazing structure from that Art Deco, Art Moderne period. And it's one of the few buildings of this size and scale by Halliburton Route that is known for so many Chicago landmarks, from the Chicago Board of Trade building to 333 North Michigan Avenue. And the list goes on and on and on. We'd love to see this building landmarked. It is our understanding that, well, first of all, I should go back and say this was one of our Chicago 7 most endangered buildings in the past. It is our understanding that the city always wanted to see this building landmarked. And unfortunately, because of a very well-to-do owner that was not in favor of the landmark designation, it was never taken up before this commission. However, the building is now for sale. The former owner, very wealthy, well-connected gentleman, Sam Zell, has passed away. His estate and his firm are selling the building. It's under contract, and very much like the Chicago Motor Club building, which was a long time preservation effort. At the moment at which it was for sale, and in that particular situation before auction, it came into landmarks, and that is a fabulous building and a fabulous hotel and renovation restoration. We would very much like to see this building on such a prominent site. Thank you, Dan, with its beautiful plaza and fountain, along with its concourse building that originally held a 180-foot long mural by the noted artist, John Norton, that ran down the ceiling of the arcade here that connected to the Chicago Northwestern Station, now Ogilvy Station. We'd love to see that restored. We do have a source that has confirmed the mural is in storage at a very high cost per month. We're encouraging the owners under contract to acquire that mural and restore it as part of their acquisition of the building. So we're very excited to see this building perhaps enter landmarks. It's been a long time waiting. It is another landmark in waiting. And we just want to also mention 2 other things. It is an early example of an air rights situation where this building is actually constructed over railroad tracks, hiding those tracks below. And it is our understanding, and this is my shout out to Terry Tatum, that Terry Tatum, more than anything, wanted to see this building landmarked. And for years, he was the researcher here at the City of Chicago Department of Plan and Development, Historic Preservation Division. And of course, we lost Terry a number of years ago, but I think it'd be wonderful in so many regards to consider this building for landmark designation. It is orange rated in the Chicago Historic Resources Survey. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is Whitney Young High School, 211 South Laughlin, Ward Miller.
Yes, thank you. Again, I'm making these fast, commissioners. If we go to the first slide, just in an effort to keep things moving here. This is Whitney M. Young Magnet High School, located at 211 South Laughlin. So Laughlin and Jackson Boulevard. It's adjacent to the Jackson Boulevard Extension District. It's around the corner from Church of the Epiphany, now Epiphany Center for the Arts. This building was built in the 1970s, early 1970s, opened in 1974, 75. It's by Perkins and Will. We have many school buildings by Dwight Perkins that are landmarked, but they're the early part of his career. These are the later part of the firm's work before it was acquired by an international, or acquired and became an international company. This was Chicago's first magnet high school, attracting children from around the entire city. As I said, it opened in 1975 for the school year. It's a modernist building, a lot of elements of Mies van der Rohe, glass and steel building, a spectacular 3-building campus, and really set a precedent for new visions and new concepts for Chicago Public Schools. It's comprised of 3 buildings. You're seeing the gym building. This is the arts and the academic buildings, crossed by these 2 bridges with a full expression of their steel trusses. We've had a number of great graduates from Whitney Young, including First Lady Michelle Robinson Obama, 2 astronauts, a number of elected officials, I should say. And I was part of the first graduating class for Whitney Young, and we helped to write the Constitution for the school, which set a certain tone and culture here, selected the school colors and the dolphin as our mascot. And I just wanted to mention that on Saturday night, marked the 50-year anniversary of Whitney Young's opening. There were over 700 people attending an event at the Hyatt Regency. I don't think we, just one more little item, and that is Whitney Young, the person, was part of the civil rights movement and very much aligned with Dr. King. He was very much keyed into corporate America and really made spaces for African Americans to assume high positions in American companies where they were previously not seen or welcomed. And he drowned and died in Nigeria in 1975. And I just wanted to mention that at a recent meeting with Reverend Jackson's wife, she was there that day and recalled many details of Whitney Young's last hours and days, and really an amazing story and somebody we don't hear about very often, but one of the city's great high schools and one of the great experiments, if you will, begun in Chicago and now copied throughout the nation. Thank you.
He was the executive director of the National Urban League. And that's
Thank you.
was what he was doing when he was in Nigeria, representing the urban.
Thank you, Commissioner.
My
My less than 3-minute speech. I just
Thank you.
wanted to squeeze it all in.
So let's repeat it. Yeah, next lesson. Central Manufacturing District located at 1831-2245 West Pershing, Ward Mill.
We go to the next slide. Thank you. So this is the Central Manufacturing District on Pershing Road. Many of you know this. Going down the street, it's across the street from McKinley Park, one of our great urban parks. And this is a 17-building complex. It was modeled after an earlier central manufacturing district that was just to the east of this, which wasn't so cohesive as this district is. But it was basically a place where you could set up an idea and produce materials with everything cared for. You had a central heating plant, you had a central operator, a central bank, and access to railroads behind, river traffic. The stockyards were not too far away. So all these products could be manufactured here at the site. And it was really sort of a revolutionary idea to have this all in one complex. So this is the 1917 version. Most of these buildings are by Samuel Scott Joy and Epstein. This has been a Chicago 7 most endangered on our list for many, many years. We've also suggested this for landmark designation numerous times in the past, but we didn't have the aldermanic support back then. The clock tower, by the way, is one of our Chicago 7 most endangered for this calendar year. It's partially owned by the city. Thank you, Dan. But it's in terrible disrepair. We'd love to see this district of buildings landmarked. We do have a new alderman, Alderman Julia Ramirez, and she is very much in support of a landmark designation of this complex. We also have community support with the McKinley Park Development Council, a really robust community organization, and we'd love to see these buildings repurposed and just designated on their exterior. Here's an image of the clock tower. which Alderman Brian Hopkins shared with me recently, that everyone in the neighborhood set their watches to this clock tower. He used it as a tool to keep track of his time being late or early to school, if you will. And factory workers also use this timepiece. It's really a neighborhood landmark. So at a minimum, we'd ask that the clock tower be considered for landmark designation. Again, this is partially owned by the city and partially owned by a private entity. There's a lot of support in the community to see the clock tower restored. It's in, I think it spans 2 TIF districts. Also, there's some proposals for some city-owned buildings down the street. We'd love to see all of these considered for designation. By the way, those city-owned properties, one of the requests as part of the proposal for their reuse was to seek a landmark designation for those buildings. So that we've got an amazing complex of structures here. It'd be wonderful to see this considered for designation. Thank you.
Another Whitney Young note. When the slide presentation was presented for St. Paul CME Church,
Yes.
you saw a slide of a group of people that was at the Martin Luther King Jr. March on Washington, and centered in that photo was Whitney Young.
Yeah,
So,
pretty amazing. Right?
number 10,
Okay.
St. Mary of the Assumption
Last one. I
Church
promise.
at 310 East.
Last one, I promise,
7th
really.
Street, Ward Millen.
I'm gonna make this really, if we could go on. So commissioners, I open this with a big smile because 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, not a lot of people knew about this church. And this was the childhood church and school of our new Pope, our first American Pope, Leo the 14th. He has very fond recollections of this complex. The building on the left is by George S. Smith, architect in 1957. Smith did a number of South Side combination church school buildings in the Art Deco, Art Moderne style. The building on the right is the original church school complex, later church by Herman Gall, who did a lot of ecclesiastical architecture. And our current American Pope, the first American Pope from Chicago, spent many development years here in these 2 structures. There's actually 7 structures altogether, as the buildings sort of telescoped over time. Next image. This is an interior photograph. There is a hole in the roof, as you can see. The current owner, Joe Hall, was supposed to be here today. Oh, he's right behind you. We met during a WLS interview. The cameras were here earlier to encourage a Chicago landmark designation and preservation of this complex. I don't want to speak for Mr. Hall, but if I could just sum it up really quick, that we're all in agreement that this would be a wonderful Chicago landmark. And he has consented to that. Do we have another image? Oh, and then on the side over here, you can see that Robert Prevost, now Pope Leo the 14th, his name on the side of the building there. So this really confirms that this was his childhood home. And of course, this is right at the intersection of 2 suburbs in the city, Dalton, where his childhood home was, the Riverdale suburb of Chicago. This is the Riverdale community of Chicago. And we spent half a day verifying that this was indeed in Chicago. If you step outside and you cross the street, you're in another suburb. So this is within the city of Chicago limits. I think this is a very special nomination. We'd like to see this expedited to really honor this first American Pope. And then, really importantly, this neighborhood of Riverdale, which is near Altbell Gardens and some Underground Railroad sites that we're just really discovering and understanding now, has almost been off people's radar for a very long time. This has seen a half a century of disinvestment. The church was originally a Roman Catholic church. It closed in, I believe, in 2011, 2012. The school closed before that. And you could live your whole life in Chicago and never see these communities. And I think the idea of a landmark designation would not only honor the Pope and the rich history of this church, but also be a site of pilgrimage and also a real cornerstone for a spark of redevelopment and rediscovery of a neighborhood that's sort of fallen off a lot of people's radar screens. So we think that this is the first step towards really bringing attention to a beautiful neighborhood that has just seen a lot of loss over time, a lot of closure, a lot of disappointments. And this is a very exciting time. So we wanted to recommend this complex, if you will, for Chicago landmark designation. And if Joe could just, behind you, if you would allow him to just speak because he acquired the complex.
Good morning. Life's been different, to say the least, in the last week or so. When acquiring the property, it was always my intention to make it beacon of the community. I have a workforce development and education center that I'm putting at the campus, and I've got a bunch of other projects that is intended specifically to redevelop that entire neighborhood and change the complexity of what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you for all of your suggestions and for taking the time to share your thoughts and information with us. All of the suggestions will now be given to Historic Preservation Division staff for further review. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you for attending. We will not be in attendance, literally.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. All right.
I did not get a real message, and I'm gonna let her know that I can.
Okay, sounds
Up to the
good. Well,
Thank you. Look forward to it.
yeah, all right.
We actually did get one more, we're gonna come next time.
Okay.
Like on this lady is just gonna be in the hospital. She gave me a call just last night. We're gonna see. Next time, another church. So we're excited about it.
You know, there's a very specific, but it does things.
So many buckets.
Yeah.
This process in front of that. We have to pay.
I have a question. Whether or not, no, but so.
I literally pick up his and she's gonna tell you her.
Yeah, she's. Whether or not, maybe even another day. So, right. And we'll just see, but, I will be, let you know. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, I'll come with it.
It's totally. Yeah, but the first time. is
Right. As one of
34
those five.
years ago.
Oh, wow.
But they don't want to talk about it now.
Yeah.
Alan, that like.